Counselor Smith.
Well,
Here.
man,
Counselor here. Here. Counselor Homewood. Here. Counselor Sims.
Here.
And Counselor Andrews. Here.
All right, Ms. Salter sent us our minutes this afternoon. If we could get a minute to read those and stuff three. Andrews. Sims, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that is, everybody's here, 5-0. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do, item 050222, which was a public hearing set for the consideration of a front yard fence variance. Those folks emailed Wyatt this weekend to request that I would be dropped. The problem is that the public hearing has already been set. So I don't think we can drop it here. I think we're going to still have to send it out without recommendation pending the public hearing, and then we'll drop it once we open the public hearing.
Okay, I make a motion to send 050222s out for the public hearing without recommendation.
Second.
Okay, motion for Mr. Sims, second for Mr. Allen. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and then we'll drop that in Monday night. Okay, all right. Are you here for the front yard fence? The second one? Yeah, okay. All right, so item 150222, public hearing set for March 14, 2022 at 6 p.m. Consideration of a secondary front yard fence variance at 212 Broadway Street. David Kinman, owner, Wyatt View inspection. And, oh, yeah. You want to come on up here?
Sorry, Mr. Kenman, we're voting against you.
Why, you want to give us a little walkie side of it, tell us a little bit what we're doing here?
Sure, the request is to replace, Brian, if you'll show the second page first. He has an existing non-conforming fence that goes along the side and rear of his house. It's on a corner lot. Now you can go back to the first page. So he wants to, here's where it's located.
Okay.
He wants to replace that with a light fence. This is the picture he sent me, and this is the plan he sent me. So you're, from what I understand, you're essentially replacing light for light, just replacing the old entire.
What's the non-conforming piece?
It's fine. It's a second, it's a front yard fence.
Yeah, the fence ordinance requires a 15-foot setback on a secondary front yard. This is a corner lot here. See that? That's
So the fence already exists.
Okay, it's Broadway at what?
Broadway and College for reference to Edgewood Elementary is
Oh, yeah.
the red clay across.
Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
We're merely, go back to the picture, the fence is not in the best shape.
Yeah.
And so it was there when we bought the house in 2014. And like some of those are falling, the slats are falling down and stuff. It's as close as possible we can get to replacing what's already there. Top is not, it's flat across the top because evidently they don't make that slat anymore. And you have to hand cut every single one. So we're going with the flat.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've got the plans kind of ready to go. I'm very familiar with the fence requirements for corner lots and city stuff more generally. And Mr. Wyatt was walking by on one Saturday morning and I said, I need to get that variance. To replace it and each front. So
And how high is the fence gonna be?
I think the dimensions did not.
Yes, I can't.
Yeah,
Too bad.
it's no more than 5 feet.
No more than that.
Are there
Yeah.
fences in the property next to you? Is there a fence?
He's on the corner.
But it's like, I mean, the houses that are.
Well, the other house faces.
There's a fence right there. This is College, and then there's an alley behind us. And so we don't really have anybody else.
Yeah, the other house is behind them, face college, they face them.
Do you have children?
We have 2 kids, 2 boys, age 11 and 9. And then we get a lot of carpool traffic, school traffic, alley traffic.
And this is, obviously, this is set for a public hearing, so we'll be hearing from Mr. Kinman again on Monday night. So proper motion will be to send it out without recommendation pending that public hearing.
So moved.
Motion for Mr. Allen, second from Mr. Sims. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That's 5-0. And so that'll be next Monday night, 6 o'clock next door. All right.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna go back to the top, 171015 request for consideration of noise and odor property, Buffalo Rock Maple Harbor. I did speak to the kind of core group of people that I regularly deal with about this, and they did request that it not be dropped. They said they'd be fine if we wanted to put it on the table so that we could bring it off when there were issues.
Can we do that?
Yeah, you're fine. You want to make a motion? Well, hold on. Yeah, sorry.
Complain about the lighting.
Yes, now that is one thing. So they did, Mike and I are on a text chain with both Buffalo Rock and Barbers. And Mike at Buffalo Rock had texted us a while back saying that they were going to be doing a new roof on the wastewater treatment facility and to expect noise and some et cetera, et cetera. So I had emailed all the folks the other day because he sent an update saying because of the weather, they kind of got slowed down and delayed. So I emailed that group of folks and Matt Banta came back with that they have now put up very bright lights all along the back line of the property. And it is basically like lighting up everybody's yards.
And in addition to the sound.
Yeah, the noise. I mean, he did say that the noise is basically kind of, he texted him back and he said the noise is basically encapsulated to during working hours when they're actually working on the road. But I think the biggest concern right now is the light. So
Is that temporary while they fix the roof?
it doesn't seem like it. It looks like they are new, like permanent, like lights on the property, which we've had this problem with lights before, so I'm not sure why they would have put an entire thing of lights up.
How they built higher walls or something?
Or like a giant surrounding thing around the whole. Drop a big giant dome on top of them,
You know, the highways, you have these.
those big, yeah, the noise barriers, yeah,
I have a question.
yes.
But anyway,
Yes.
on this one.
Yes.
I think Sunday at 6 o'clock, driving by there, the odor is back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Matt said there's.
Yeah, and I think the odor's been because of the roof, and he said, because the building is now open, there are parts of that building that are now open because of the roofing work, so. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, so they requested that I not drop it, but we might need to see what we can possibly go to and see about doing about the lighting. Because he said if they would just angle the lights back toward the property instead of having them flood into the neighborhood. Because he said their backyard looks like daytime all the time. Because they're all, the lights are on all the time. Yeah. So, but if y'all would like to just move to table it, I'm fine with that. They just requested that we keep it on the agenda. So that, okay, motion to table. Mr. Allen, second from Ms. Andrus. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, so we'll move that to the table, and that way, if things do come up, we can.
Just out of context, so you guys, like, we asked them and they said they couldn't build a wall or hire anything. How has that conversation historically gone?
Not well.
Yeah.
Pretty much as in all conversations that they don't go very well.
And over the years, a long time, I have asked for consideration putting a wall on that site.
Yeah.
And there was always, we've never done that before in the whole state. So we're not, even though we would be willing to pay.
Even if we were.
It would change the whole dynamic.
Yeah, now I will say, earlier in this whole nightmarish situation, there were a lot of noise and lighting problems that they actually did address, and that they stopped, they did redirect some lights and turn off some lights and do some things. So I don't really understand, except that it's a whole new group of people. So they probably have no historical context for the fact that this was an issue before, and how they don't realize that that would affect the neighbors that are right there next to them. I don't know, but we can.
Early on, say one more thing. Early on, we did have a decent relationship where we would go meet with them.
Yes, we haven't
and
met them in
talk
a long
about all
time.
this.
Could we, I would love to.
Matthew did. I mean, request a meeting where we can go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
sure.
We doesn't hear it directly.
Right. Okay, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think so,
I
for
think
sure.
we should. Seriously.
They've always be good partners.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, final item is 040222, request for consideration of a Christmas tree project from Ms. Nell. You want to tell us?
So there are three parts to this. Basically,
getting a vendor for trees, building a portal, working with Brian to build a portal for our website. And the third part of it is actually turning this over to the beautification board. The reason behind it is that for about 17 to 20 years now, different streets in the neighborhood have gotten together to do Christmas trees. I'm not sure if it started in Edgewood or not, but to my knowledge, it started on Edgewood Boulevard. And basically they got together with their neighbors and they said, hey, let's put trees in our front yard. And they lined them up. So you drive by there and it's like, wow, it looks great at Christmas time. Well, then West Glenwood and East Glenwood and all the different streets around their neighborhoods their streets started getting like somebody to coordinate for each street. Well, I found out, I didn't even know about it. And I lived between Trinity and Dawson, and just randomly found the person who was coordinating it for our area. And the point of the whole project is having a location where everybody can go to if they decide to do a tree, instead of being left out of, if you don't know the lady who lives on East Glenwood or Murray Hill, you can just go straight to the portal where everybody can go and request their trees instead of, just one person coordinating it for different sections.
So the city has there's no cost, there's no anything. All we're doing is facilitating communication for the neighbors.
Right. And that came up when the year before last, they finally coordinated it on Murray Hill. Like we'd never had them on Murray Hill. And somebody's like, hey, do y'all want trees? We're like, yeah. Well, then everybody started coming to me, hey, you got the trees? And I was like, I don't have any trees. I just kind of knew. And then I wanted to help everybody connect with the people. So it actually kind of became, my project for Murray Hill and a couple other folks.
Yeah.
And instead of leaving people out or not having, I don't know everybody on Murray Hill.
Well, sure.
And so instead of leaving somebody out, I want to be able to have some source for everybody in Homewood to go say, hey, yes, I want a tree. I live on this street. And the beautification board's role would be to basically have a vendor who's going to say, hey, we're going to deliver to whoever orders in Homewood.
Okay, so the plan would be that somebody would deliver.
Yeah,
trees. Okay.
yes.
I know in the past, some people with trailers have gone to wherever they get them from and they
Right.
load up all the
And,
trees.
and it may be best that it's done that way, but at least there'll be one source for, how they
Finding out about
finding out about it and getting the trees instead of, somebody saying, oh, well, I know about it,
Don't get them out.
or, just having a source.
They're
to go
going
get it.
over there.
Because this year on Murray Hill, whoever was in West Homewood that did it, they're like, oh, we're not delivering over there this year. And I'm like, so, and then my neighbors didn't get their trees and they thought they were gonna get trees again.
Okay.
So,
Yep,
yeah.
yes, Brian.
Couple of things, mine too. We get inundated at the end of Christmas. This is what people do with their trees at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to definitely be a follow-up and a way for people to know that they're getting picked up, or are they supposed to handle it?
They'll handle their own
If
trees.
they handle it themselves,
Yeah.
we need to be sure that they know where to take them.
Well, and we also need to talk to Berkeley because if people are gonna throw a bunch of trees out on
Right, that's
the
the
street.
that's the other thing.
Yeah. And I don't think there's gonna be any new influx of folks ordering them that don't normally order them.
I don't mean to be a Scrooge, but I really don't, this city business, like where we're facilitating people. putting
No, it's
trees
going
on
to the
their
beautification
front,
board.
Which is still, technically a city committee and
Yeah, and we've already talked to them. They want to do it. And I've talked to Nick and, this is kind of like the last straw to kind of turn it over. So, and I mean, it's been done for years and years and, there are people who are feeling left out. And
well,
so,
they're still gonna be, you can't help people are still gonna be feeling left out, even if they're gonna forget. I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
this just needs to be like a personal, private issue.
Are these pre-lit trees?
No, they're typically not. People have to have their own.
Yeah.
Keep that in consideration on the exact same thing. Those lights can't be recycled. And if you have pre-lit trees, they're never gonna get those lights off. So they need to be just plain trees and people will have to light them themselves. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bunch of trees going in the recycle with lights.
Lights on, they
That
can't.
can't be recycled.
yeah. And again, it's just, the same folks who are ordering them, but just having a, like a organized source to get them. Yeah.
And then we can work together on a form with the other thing, so that people can put in their address, or
Right.
you can have whatever you need on it, or contact or whatever.
Right.
We can build a form easily.
I mean, I think as far as the resource, the page through the beautification board or standalone can talk about their tradition and talk about kind of like what's involved with, requesting a tree. Because I thought about, the number of vendors that there may be, we're not necessarily promoting one vendor over another, but just kind of compile a list, put the information out there for people to utilize and it'd be easily accessible. And on the back end, we can definitely include like, you can take it to the zoo to be recycled. You can take it to, behind Homewood Rec to be recycled or wherever the location is. And then finally, I mean, Berkeley's crew does pick them up on trash pickup days as well. After the holidays, I'm sure they end up throwing away a lot, but putting the word out there about recycling, or actually, I'm sure if they're taken to a recycling, center, that's going somewhere else than is if you're trash.
The recycling center takes them now is that all the lights are off.
Okay.
That's where we ran in. We used to, probably 7 to 8 years ago, we used to, they put them in and they had a group, Jenny, oh gosh, I know her from when she played on the MTV show.
Oh, no, Julie did.
Julie, Jenny.
Yeah, she would do it at the garden.
Yeah, and she'd have a group of kids that would take the lights off the trees.
Yeah.
And we had an old chipper, and when I say old, I mean.
Nice.
And we would do mulch for the thing over there at the middle school.
I love it.
They would use it over there, but it got to the point it was, the first year I think she had about 12 kids. Next year it got down to about 5, and then the next year it was like, we don't want to do this.
Yeah. She told me she doesn't really, she can't do it. She doesn't. It's her by herself. She can't do
And it just got to be more and more than what I think most people realize. So, we just got them now where we can pick them up off the thing and take them. I mean,
So we can include what recycling options are there
Yeah.
and remind people to, take the 30 seconds to take their flights off the trees. I can't believe.
Well,
people
hey, listen, I saw
don't take
people
the
who
time
threw
to
them
do
out
that.
to the street with the stand still on them.
yeah, we got a bunch.
Including our
Stands
own.
on.
Goodness gracious.
Yes,
They
I mean, I bought mine. I mean, I couldn't even take the
The
stand.
last few years we've done,
Almost
we
went
got
down
some
one.
trees had everything on.
Yeah.
We got some of our guys. they're
I
like-
got some of my best
Stuff like that.
Just got me a Christmas tree.
Yeah, we had quite a few of them.
Okay, so since this is ultimately going to go to the beautification board, I'm not sure there's really a motion needed. Am I wrong here? I don't know. We don't really need, we're not approving anything really.
Beautification.
Just take it over. Okay. I guess, all right. So that, I guess, he's saying, just to get it off the agenda would be to refer this to the beautification board to manage.
Move to approve that, or I would move,
To refer it to them.
yeah, to approve that, yeah.
Okay, motion from Ms. Andrews, second, Ms. Almond, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0, okay, and with that, we are adjourned.
I still love you, Julie.
I'm gonna get your.
It's fine.
Well, I mean, my biggest thing is, as long as nobody in the city has to do any.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was just
Yeah,
hoping-
I mean, because I ain't coordinating.